To really get Jack Ma, you've got to picture two totally different people in your head at the exact same time. On one hand, you have this global titan, a billionaire who basically vanished after poking the bear, his own government. And on the other, a poor, skinny kid from a small city who was told again and again and again that he was, well, no good. This is the story of how that kid became that titan. It's a journey fueled by just an unbelievable level of persistence.
And right here, you can see just how stark that contrast is. You have the Titan 2020 version, about to launch the biggest IPO in world history, $37 billion, who then gets on stage and openly blasts China's powerful state banks. And then, poof, he's just gone. On the other side, you have the teacher, back in the 70s, a boy with absolutely nothing, riding his bike for miles every day just to practice English with tourists for free. So how does that kid become that guy? The guy's so powerful, he's seen as a threat to the very system that created him.
You see, his story doesn't start with some brilliant idea or a lucky break. Nope. It starts with a brutal, decade-long masterclass in failure. And this wasn't just a bad run. This was the fire that forged his single most important quality, a kind of resilience that is almost superhuman. What's so wild is the pattern you see here. At just 12 years old, he starts this 9-year personal mission, his own little school, just to teach himself English, completely outside the rigid state system. But every time he tries to play by the official rules, he hits a brick wall. He fails the college entrance exam, the one test that basically decides your entire future in China, twice. On his first try, he gets 1, a single point, in math. He finally squeaks into what he himself called the worst university in town. And you'd think graduating would be the win, right? But nope. It just opened the door to a whole new world of rejection.
30. Just let that number sink in for a second. After getting a degree, the thing that's supposed to open doors, he applies for 30 different jobs, and every single one said no. This wasn't just bad luck. This was the world giving him a verdict.
And it doesn't get much more personal than this. When KFC came to his town, he applied. 24 people interviewed. 23 got hired. He was the only one they rejected. I mean, think about that. It's almost statistically impossible. This wasn't about his resume anymore. It felt personal.
And the hits just kept on coming. He tries to join the police force. 5 friends apply, 4 get in. He's the one who's told, flat out, you're no good. He applies to be a waiter with his cousin. The cousin gets hired. They tell Jack he's too skinny, too short. These weren't rejections of his skills. They were rejections of him. The only job he could finally get was the one no one else wanted, teaching English for $12 a month. So in a system that didn't want him, he started to build a new one in his head. So the question becomes, how does someone take that much rejection and not just break? How do you turn all that pain into the fuel for one of the greatest success stories of all time? Well, the answer showed up out of nowhere on a trip to America. It all changed in 1995. He's in the US and he's in a room with a machine he's never even seen before. This moment, it wasn't really about the technology. It was about him seeing a giant, gaping hole in the world that maybe only an outsider like him could spot.
The story is legendary now. He's in Seattle, and a friend says, "Hey, try this thing called the internet." Jack is terrified. He won't even touch the keyboard because he's sure he's going to break this expensive computer. Finally, his friend convinces him. So he carefully types in his very first search term, beer. Results pop up. American beer, German beer, Japanese beer. But right away he notices there's no Chinese beer. So his next search, China. And the result? Nothing. 0. And in that moment, in that total digital void, boom, the epiphany hits. This thing, the internet, could be the bridge to connect all of China's small, forgotten businesses to the entire world. A few hours later, they get 5 emails. His response? What is email?
So he's completely fired up. He rushes back to China, starts one of the country's first internet companies, China Pages. But it was just another lesson in failure. He was too early. And worse, a big state-owned company saw his idea, copied it, and then basically used its political power to force him into a partnership and squeeze him out. The system had crushed him again. But from the ashes of that failure, he came up with the single most important rule of his entire career, a rule he'd lived by for 20 years. Be in love with the government, but never marry them. It was a lesson that would make him a massive success, and, ironically, would also be the thing that brought him down.
So after that bruising experience, Ma decides to try again. But this time, he's not going it alone. He goes back to his tiny apartment with nothing but an idea. But it was an idea so powerful, it would convince people to give up everything to follow him. And this is the moment. February 1999. He's back in his cramped apartment, not with slick venture capitalists, but with 17 of his closest friends. His wife, his students, his colleagues. These are the true believers. Together, they scraped together $60,000 to start a new company with a crazy, ambitious name, Alibaba. If you want proof of just how powerful Ma's vision was, look no further than this guy, Joseph Chai. Chai is everything Ma isn't. Yale-educated, a high-flying investment banker in Hong Kong making $700,000 a year. He visits Ma and finds this chaotic apartment full of people living on instant noodles. And he's so blown away that he quits his $700,000 a year job to join the startup for $50 a month. 50! That's when you know your vision is worth more than money. So now they have the team, but they need serious cash. After getting rejected all over Silicon Valley, they land a meeting with one of the biggest tech investors on the planet, Masayoshi-san from SoftBank. Ma was supposed to have 20 minutes to pitch. He wouldn't even need half that. Sun later said that Ma had no business plan, zero revenue, nothing on paper. But what he did have was this unstoppable passion. Sun said he saw the light of determination in his eyes. After just 6 minutes, Sun stopped the meeting and offered to invest $20 million. He didn't invest in a spreadsheet, he invested in Jack Ma's grit. So the stage is set. He's got the vision, a team of true believers, and now he's got the capital. But a giant was coming to China, the biggest name in e-commerce, eBay. How on earth was this little startup from a cramped apartment supposed to fight that? This next part is where Jack Ma goes from a visionary to a genius strategist. He doesn't just build a website, he builds an entire ecosystem for China. And it starts with a war against a global giant and ends with him being willing to risk his own freedom. So eBay rolls into China with a mountain of cash. Ma's response? He launches a competitor called Taobao, and his strategy was brilliant. eBay charged fees for everything, Taobao was totally free. eBay didn't want buyers and sellers talking, Taobao built a chat tool to encourage it, turning it into a community. eBay was a sterile auction site, but Taobao was a bustling digital marketplace. By 2006, eBay was basically history in China. But winning that war uncovered the real fundamental problem. In China, there was zero trust online. Buyers were afraid sellers would take their money and run. Sellers were afraid buyers wouldn't pay up. It was a total stalemate. Ma went to the big state banks, begging them to create a solution. They all said no, too risky, too small. So Ma was stuck. The only way forward was to build a payment system himself. But here's the catch. For a company like his to handle money transfers was completely illegal at the time. He couldn't get a license. So what do? Do you let your dream die, or do you break the law and risk it all? And this is the defining moment. He's at the World Economic Forum in Davos, listening to a panel on leadership. Something just clicks. He gets on the phone with his team and gives a direct order. Do it. Now. Immediately. He knew exactly what he was risking, and he owned it, saying, if somebody is sent to prison, Jack Ma will go to prison. And with that one call, Alipay was born. He was willing to go to jail to build the trust that would unlock the entire Chinese digital economy. With the trust problem solved, Ma's empire just exploded, and this begins the final act. He reaches the absolute peak of the business world, celebrated everywhere as the face of modern China. But in doing so, he put himself on a collision course with the one power he swore he'd never marry. At the heart of it all was this completely radical philosophy. While everyone else was screaming, shareholders, shareholders, May flipped the pyramid upside down. Customers first, employees second, shareholders third. His logic was simple. If you make your customers and employees happy, the shareholders will be happy in the long run. But this little guy first idea was a direct threat to China's state-first financial system. The seeds of his downfall were planted right there in his greatest idea. And this timeline shows you just how fast it all came apart. 2014, biggest IPO in history. And in a classic Jack Ma move, he has 8 customers ring the opening bell, not suits. By 2019, he's retired, going back to teaching. But then, October 2020, he gives that speech. He breaks his own cardinal rule, and the response is swift and brutal. His IPO is killed, and Jack Ma, the most famous businessman in China, just vanishes. When he finally shows up again, he's not at some big conference, he's at a school. The circle was complete. He was back to being Teacher Ma. When you lay it all out like this central theme of his life is just undeniable. Look at this pattern. Every single major failure he ever had was the direct launch pad for his next major success. Failing the college exam made him a teacher, where he learned to inspire people. Getting rejected by KFC came right before he discovered the internet. Losing his first company led to him founding Alibaba on his own terms. Even his final, most public defeat leads him back to his true passion. For Jack Ma, failure was never a stop sign. It was always fuel.
If you could boil his entire mindset down to one sentence, this is it. It's not just blind optimism. He's saying, look, it's gonna be tough. It might even get tougher. But he has this unshakable belief that if you can just push through, sunshine is waiting on the other side. In the end, Jack Ma's story is just an incredible lesson in how resilience can turn a lifetime of no into a global empire. But his final chapter is also a warning, isn't it? It shows that sometimes even the most persistent person can hit a wall that simply will not move, a system that won't bend. And it leaves us with this really tough question to think about. At what point does that unyielding persistence, the very thing that made you, become your greatest weakness?